Hello and welcome to another week of Shouting Over the News, I guess. Just to mix things up, because, we don't like to be consistent on this show. I'm hosting today, and I'm going to be joined by, you just heard his laugh, Mark's still here. We've just decided to change things up a bit, give him a bit of a rest. So how you doing, Mark?
Mixing it up a little, mate.
Yeah,
It's great.
And
I'm doing all right.
also, we've got Jack. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. It's just another Saturday, another week closer to Christmas, so
Oh, God, yeah.
Christ, you make it sound like a death march.
Yeah, it's a really sad way of looking at Christmas.
Well,
I
no,
thought
it's
you were
just 'cause,
gonna-
so I've been at my job now for like a year, and it's just gone super quick.
Yeah, I
That's
was
all,
thinking
like,
about this
damn.
earlier, just like, fuck, man, I've been doing my PhD for like a year and a bit now.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've added anything to the world of science, but whatever. Doesn't matter. I've got another 2 years for that. It's okay.
Yeah, be fine. And some people take a little bit longer than the 3 years to really add something to science.
It's alright, I've got 3.5. That's fine.
There we go.
That extra 6 months, baby. Oh!
I call it the 6-month edition.
It's
There's
it's
actually
when
a
all the
term
science
for it.
gets done. But
It's just practice.
we'll see how it goes. There's obviously some big news for this week that I think you two are definitely going to have a big chat about. I figure we'll save that. We'll go through some other stuff first and save that, just because we're going to end up talking about that for a while.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That seems reasonable to me. I thought, first off, we sort of started having a discussion about this just before we started recording. But recently, Destiny 2, with their new ambition to actually put content into their games, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Have been running. I mean, they did this. They've been doing this all along. They always have these sort of festive events, and the Halloween one this year is the Festival of the Lost, and it's actually really fun, which is a little bit surprising. But it's sort of centered around celebrating all of the characters that have died in Destiny. So there's like a little shrine to everyone who's died, because obviously with Forsaken having just come out, there's been a big death, and that's sort of on the mind of Destiny players at the moment, I guess. But also they've really taken to that Infinite Forest thing. So in Curse of Osiris, they introduced this whole Vex simulation area that was meant to be, I guess, like I don't know what they were going for. Just sort of a randomly generated, you go through, kill things, and it ended up being quite disappointing. Like nobody really actually liked it.
Yeah, well, it kind of. I don't even know if they totally advertised it as this is like a proc gen like murder zone.
Well, that's the
But
thing they did. So that's why everyone was disappointed. I think I remember the videos that, like the vidocs that came up just before they released Curse of Osiris. They were like, "Oh, we've got this great new Infinite Forest area where every time you go in, it's going to be different, and it's going to be a great thing to just go back and explore in." And it's like, you can't explore that. It's a corridor to whatever mission it's leading you to, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't remember, because obviously it's been almost like a year. Curse of Osiris is what, like March, January, something like that.
Yeah.
And so I don't really remember what the advertisements are. But when you look at what Curse of Osiris is and the Infinite Forest, I do not know how they could have looked at we're going to put together one of like 4 different like generic looking circular arenas into a couple of like sections. We're going to chain them together, and it's just going to be a path where you walk through. You don't even have to kill anybody in it.
Yeah, you literally just have to run through it, and it's
Like, I don't know how they could look at that and think that it was like a procedurally generated combat arena.
It's ridiculous. And like, if you up until now, if you ever like, I think one of the strikes, maybe 2, was sort of Curse of Osiris themed. So occasionally you'd end up going into this Infinite Forest again, because nobody ever actually chose to go into it. And anytime you'd go in, if you'd be thrown in with some randomer, they'd sprint through it. Nobody would ever go through killing them. And so it was a bit of a disappointment. But what they've done for this is they've released they've made it the Haunted Forest. So it's a very similar thing, but you sort of go almost round based, I guess, through a series of randomly generated like these arenas. It's all quite dark, so you've got your ghost constantly there lighting up a bit in front of you, and you just have to kill a bunch of people. Then it sort of gets harder as you go through. So they put different sort of if you've played any of the strikes or like the nightfalls, when they add just like a harder thing, so like you shouldn't really jump or you need to be running to heal or something like that. Um, they add those each time you go through, and it's actually it's great fun. I've played it a few times with my brother, and they've really nailed it. And it feels spooky as well because there's this one enemy who you can't kill. He's just giant and fucking terrifying, and will occasionally turn up, and you just got to run away. But you've still got to kill everything else. Like that's the whole. To finish each round, you have to kill a certain amount of things, which is reasonable for a game such as Destiny.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I've never been like as you guys know, I've never really been a massive like get into Destiny
yeah,
fan, but it certainly from what it sounds like is they do get quite a lot of community feedback and criticism on what
yeah,
they claim to put out in their
Yeah.
games, and I guess they obviously you'd want that game or you'd want the features that they're claiming to be in from the start when they make those statements, but certainly
yeah.
sounds as if they're I guess at least listening to the community.
Well, I think they've stumbled a few times. They never really don't have the features that they say they have. They just kind of exaggerate them a little bit. Like Infinite
Okay.
Forest is a procedurally generated thing where you can fight, but it's just not very good.
All right.
Um, so yeah, I mean, they've improved on those things, and this is, I think, a really fun example of that. And the whole like Halloween shtick of it is that from Amanda Holiday, the like shipwright, I think she is. She
She's
gives
just the
you
pilot, isn't she?
Yeah, and she sort of runs the garage in the tower or whatever, and she gives you a mask, and so you've got to complete a bunch of tasks with this mask on. And so I think the one she gives you is Master Rahul, who's the engram decryptor.
Yes, because
Okay.
I'm in the middle of doing some of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's quite funny because you see lots of people running around with these ridiculous masks on, and like all sort of different characters you can get, and I think you can get like a chicken as well and stuff like that. It's all just kind of fun, but it does mean that in this haunted forest they actually give you certain perks and stuff. Um, so there is kind of a reason for them. They do also drop your light level ridiculously because they are zero. So you go from being
Yes.
like 520 to 450 or whatever, and it's like, well, fuck me, I guess. But like they've added, they're keeping going with this content since Forsaken came out, and it's been sort of a steady roll of actual things to do, and I mean,
Yeah.
I'm happy.
So I'm just looking at like at an article talking about like all of the different masks and stuff that you can get. And I've just scrolled down and you can get you can get a ghost covered in like a white sheet,
I
which I
didn't
That's
just
know
think is
that.
great.
brilliant. Like that's so amazing.
That is pretty
That's
good.
fucking genius.
Oh my god.
See, and they've got
Sorry,
a
Dylan.
no, it's fine, and they've clearly got a bit of sense of humor about it all as well,
Yeah,
which is
man.
someone. And my brother sent me a video of all like you've got emotes in Destiny, just like you do in
Yeah.
everything nowadays. Someone put together a video of all the dance references, and it's really quite funny. You can get like sort of the "Oops, I did it again" dance and stuff like that, and
Nice.
that you just don't really realize they go for like really deep cuts on some of their references. One of them is called, and because the names are never that clear, one of them's called Lucky Shot, and you do the dance from Rush Hour when Chris Tucker, I think he shoots something and then it explodes.
Yeah.
And in the street, he sort of does a kick with his legs and puts his arm out.
Yeah, and he does the little dance in the street after he
Yeah,
wins.
and
Yeah.
that's one of the new Destiny dances. And it's
That
just
is a
like,
deep cut. That's
yeah,
cool.
there's some really ridiculous ones. There's some really obvious ones like the Ministry of Silly Walk, the
Yeah.
bureaucratic walk or whatever. But I mean, there's some humor in there. I think it gets missed out on all the news about Destiny being a hot pile of garbage. But there's a real feel to it. I can understand. I mean, I'm biased obviously because I've been playing this for a while now, but I think it's sort of clear why there were so many fans that stuck with it, which is nice.
Yeah.
Have you also heard about? I don't know if you've seen. There was some leaks about Destiny 3 recently.
I did not see that.
I saw that it got announced, or I saw that it was revealed that it has got into like full production.
Yeah, so there was from sort of a pretty well respected, I guess, I don't know how you'd refer to this, Destiny leaker called Anon of the Nine, which is a pretty good Destiny name.
Yeah, that's solid.
Uh,
But hang on,
he's-
what is a pretty good Destiny leaker mean?
Yeah, so I was trying to think of the words. He's just leaked some stuff before, and it's been right, basically.
Okay, because I'm trying to think like if you're a pretty good Destiny leaker, which means you are consistently leaking correct information about Destiny, doesn't that just mean that you're a particularly chatty member of staff at Bungie?
Basically, yeah. Or you're their sort of guerrilla advertising staff. They're just starting the Destiny 3 advertising campaign, isn't it? Clearly, it's working. But
I guess what Destiny 3 will be, what, 2019, I guess?
yeah, probably.
Mm.
Especially if, I guess, if things are coming out about it now, that would make sense. I know a lot of people, like in my clan and stuff, people were talking about how they'd kind of prefer to have an extra year of Destiny 2 because now it's gotten good and people have put the money into it. And then, so you get a year of it being good before you're playing Destiny 3.
Well, I
You
guess
know-
actually 2020 makes more sense, right? Because it's 2014, 2017, 2020, 3-year cycle.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. Sorry, I'm just
No, it's fine. I
thinking out
think
loud.
if they're really starting proper production now, 2020, I guess, makes sense. 2019 would be a bit quick, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking when I said 2019.
But anyway,
Because I guess they've still got like a DLC schedule to get through, haven't they,
yeah,
for
they've
this
got
one?
2 more things. They're not. I think they're mostly story based rather than actual missions and stuff. They're adding a bunch of lore, which I
Is
think
it
is cool.
is it 2 more or is it 3 more?
I think it's 2 more. It might be
'Cause
3, but in my head I had 2 more down because there's one about the new Gambit guy, and then I can't remember what the one after that is. But
Yeah, it is 2 more, isn't it? It's the Oh no, it's 3 more.
Oh,
It is
okay.
3 more. Because I've got the game case here because it's got the advertisement for the annual pass in it, and it's got Black Armory winter, Joker's Wild spring, Penumbra summer.
oh yeah, Penumbra is this weird one that I think is the next sort of Forsaken idea. It's the next,
The fat upgrade.
the bigger one, yeah. And some people I think are not sure what Penumbra is actually going to end up being, but either way,
Hopefully, it'll be when they finally introduce the 5th race that they've been teasing for literally, well, since the beginning, but have teased for a year now, and nothing's come of it.
yeah. Well, so that's one of these things about Destiny 3 is they sort of seem to be suggesting there's going to be a big change in that sort of area. So I guess not race specifically, but apparently there's going to be in the sort of PvE areas, so like not team deathmatch and whatever, the Crucible, that's the name. There's going to be PvP areas, and it's because apparently this is again just from this leak. You're going to be able to choose between either using the light or the dark. So that's a thing they've kind of introduced with Guardians being able to do with this Gambit character who's the main part of Joker's Wild when that comes out. So he's this rogue who's come along and you now do a new Crucible kind of thing with him. And he uses some dark powers. So with this idea that there might be PvP fighting over territories in the actual like game world, some people are suggesting or thinking it might be that it's sort of like a split between the Guardians in that you're getting some who use light, some who use dark, and then fighting each other. Which I think, honestly, like I was saying this to my brother a while ago actually as well. I think that's a really cool idea. I think being able to change up how you're playing based on it, I don't know, adds an extra element of role play to it, doesn't it? Because as a Guardian, you can't really be like, oh, I want to be just a dickhead. 'Cause,
It sounds like it's almost like a WoW Horde versus Alliance style thing,
yeah, which could be cool.
where like it doesn't necessarily change it doesn't necessarily change large parts of it, but it does give you like an allegiance that will affect sort of how you play through it. I don't know. Yeah, that's cool because the the thing that I was reading was talking about how that cutscene at the end of Destiny 2 shows the light going through all the planets that you visit in Destiny 2 in
Yeah.
sequence, and then it does the reef, and then it does somewhere else, and then it does those like triangle ships.
Yeah.
And so the thing I was saying is if Forsaken is the reef, or it does it in like it does like Mercury, Mars, the reef, and then like Saturn, and then some dark ships or something. And they're saying if you've got the reef as Forsaken, it did Mercury and Mars for Curse of Osiris and Warmind, and then there's all this stuff in the game that's building up to you maybe encountering Savathun, one of the Hive badasses,
Yeah.
and that would make sense for them being in near Saturn because they've got that, because that's the Savathun song is the new strike on Titan, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that would make sense them being near Saturn. So that would probably be one of these. So they're saying basically either the big end of Destiny 2 story is either going to be you fight Savathun, and then the Black Triangle ships will turn up for Destiny 3, or you're going to fight Savathun in one of the next DLC packs, and then it finishes with the big Black Triangle ships turning up. Obviously, this is all total conjecture and fan theory,
Completely.
but I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah, there's, I think, a lot to be speculated on. So, I mean, they've left that out there to be fan theory, haven't they? And I think people are generally pretty good at figuring these stuff out. I know, I mean, if you've looked at sort of Reddit fan theory subreddits, they always tend to get a bit overblown, but you tend to get some pretty well thought out ones that end up being actually, pretty close to right. So I think Destiny is one of those sort of communities where people really do get into the lore enough that they can figure this stuff out. Because, I mean, I know my brother's, like I said this on one of the shows before, I think. My brother's really weirdly good at figuring out what's going to happen before it happens because he just knows the lore too well. So, I think...
Also, your brother, not to make this the Dylan's brother show, but your brother has like a preternatural sense for predicting shit. Because didn't he call the plot twist at the end of Series 1 of Westworld in the first episode?
Yeah. And I remember when Looper? Do you remember Looper?
Yeah.
We saw the trailer to that, and then after that he was like, I think it's going to go like this. And he was exactly right. Off the trailer. Like, he got the entire plot to Looper off the trailer. And because I saw that and thought, it looks like it could be pretty fun and pretty mysterious. And then when I watched it, I was like, yeah, that had some good twists. But it was what my brother said. So fuck that guy. But yeah.
Yeah, so I've just watched like the 1 minute post credits Destiny 2 scene again with the sound off, and it literally goes Mercury, Mars, the Reef, Saturn, the triangle pointy ships.
Yeah.
Which is too much of a coincidence considering the way the DLC's gone.
I mean, it's clearly intentional, isn't it? Yeah. So I mean,
I don't know what the Black Armory is. Is that something in the lore?
If I remember right, it's a group of people who make some like really fucking sick ass weapons. So they make like the best weapons of the solar system or whatever, and you go there for whatever reason. So hopefully it's just going to be a DLC where you get like a fucking shit ton of cool weapons. So we'll see.
Yeah, that'd be good.
A chainsaw, that's what I want. Would be stupid.
Yeah.
But imagine
and a grappling hook.
Oh.
And a sawn-off shotgun. I mean, what? Let's go back to Mars. Yeah, though I think it's everything's to play for in Destiny 2 because Forsaken is solid. There is a fun loop in that game. If it wasn't for certain current releases, I'd be playing some Destiny 2.
If it wasn't for broken Xboxes, I too would be playing Destiny 2.
Mate, you're going to have to really pull some overtime teaching at the uni to save yourself some pennies.
Oh, it's all right. I already am. It's okay.
Good man. Have you considered selling
My soul?
non-essential organs?
Yeah. Well, there are some. I got a few left. I can.
Blood, for a start.
Ah,
You
we're
sell
not-
blood? I don't
we're
think
not
you're
in
allowed to sell
America.
blood in this
We can,
country.
can we?
Yeah.
I've thought about this before. It's like I think it's all donating.
There's nothing. Yeah, is there anything you can sell in this country that comes out your body?
You could do it on the black market, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, my blood definitely isn't good enough for the black market. I feel like if you're going on the black market with your blood, it needs to be some like primo shit.
Yeah. You need that top quality blood.
Mine is objectively soiled.
It's strange the conversations we get onto on this show. I think we've spent a good chunk of time talking about Destiny there. I wasn't expecting that long. There's some other stories, but I don't know how important they actually are. So should we just skip to the big part? I figure you're going to talk about that for a while anyway.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
So I've been playing God of War.
Fuck! I shouldn't have left it up to you guys.
Actually, I'm not going to talk about God of War apart from to say that game remains good. But I will. I spoke about how everything was getting a bit hot in my entertainment centre.
Yeah.
So I bought a USB fan that I'm running off the PlayStation, and it works a dream.
nice.
I've now got sitting next to my PS4 is a USB fan that's pointing out of the entertainment centre, and so now I just turn that on when I start playing, and it's loud as fuck,
Yeah.
but it means that I can play for more than an hour without the whole thing just turning off, which is quite nice.
Which is beneficial.
Fair. Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
when you're on a games podcast. You think, an hour, that's all I need for games. It's not like I talk about it every week with my friends. An hour is fine.
Not like, I don't know, Jack. Oh, Jack, you should probably lead in to the current conversation, as you have got a more limited experience than I have, it seems, because you've only played like an hour, and I've
Yeah.
played like 5 hours.
Yeah, so obviously the big game that came out on the 26th of October, so yesterday, in fact, at the time of recording, was Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, this is Rockstar's second installment in the Red Dead Redemption series, and yeah, it's been so yeah, like you say, Mark. I've only played about an hour and a half of it or so, but so far it's living up to all of the pre-release hype, I would say, and I've barely scratched the surface of it.
So how far are you?
So I'm just I don't know, Dylan. I don't know if I can. I imagine I'm not that.
I don't think you're going to spoil anything an hour into Red Dead Redemption 2.
So I think
Apart from, I guess, the opening section, I guess, which
Yeah.
is interesting but different.
so. So I don't actually know how many hours I've put into it. I think it's maybe 1 or 2. I know when I checked when I turned it off yesterday when I stopped playing it, I checked like the progress on the campaign and it said 3%.
Okay.
So I think I'm just before I'm just before that train robbery bit at the start.
So you're still in the snowy area.
Yeah.
You haven't got out of the snowy area.
No, I'm
Okay.
still very much there.
So I mean, the game starts with you are. It's obviously it's a prequel to Red Dead Redemption 1.
Yep.
And you are in the Dutch Van der Linde gang, which is the gang that you are hunting down in Red Dead Redemption 1. You playing Arthur Morgan, and you and your gang are out in the middle of a fucking fierce snowstorm. Like, it looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
And you're out in the middle of this snowstorm, and you're cold, and people have been fucked up, and you're on the run from Blackwater, where you did a job that went south. Like, it went bad. And so you're on the run, and you're escaping east. So that's the thing about this game, that already in just a few hours I've played, and it's been highlighted in a few of the reviews as well, is it's about the Wild West, but it's about the death of the Wild West. It's about the end of the era of cowboys and sort of the romanticized vision of the Wild West, and it seems to be doing that not only thematically but also structurally, because things have gone bad in the West, and you and the gang are moving east.
Yeah.
It's immediately stated when someone's like, we just gotta go east, man. The West we are on the run. Shit's bad out west. People have died. And so you are moving east, and women in your group and some of the men are like, but that's the way to civilization. And it's going, we got no other way to go. So already, like only a few hours in, it immediately sort of stakes its claim, and it's like, no, this is a game about the death of the Old West, and it's going to force you to experience that as you are pushed towards civilization. So yeah, you're in the mountains in the snow, and the game it does you know how the beginning of Red Dead Redemption 1 is pretty slow and laborious, because it decides to introduce you to all of its systems by just having you on a ranch where the stakes aren't that high.
Yeah.
Up until kind of the ranch gets set on fire. Well, this one, it pulls the same trick and introduces you to all its systems, but the scenario around it is like exponentially more compelling. Like you're on the run and you're stranded and there's no food and you can barely find shelter. And then once you do find shelter, it's about trying to sort your shit out and find some resources. And you quickly start to get a taste of the kind of man that Dutch van der Linde is.
Yeah.
But also, like, you already know the end of his story, which is an interesting thematic conceit to see these characters and to be interacting with Javier Escuela and Bill Williamson and Dutch van der Linde, full well in the knowledge that for each one of these people, their ending is going to be alone and miserable, and they're going to be just kind of mad outlaws to the end. And I am so far impressed by what it is doing from a thematic and like a story construction standpoint. It's pretty phenomenal, actually, the way that they are doing what they need to do and the way it's written. Like, I don't know. There's a black character in your group, and he has been handled with the utmost. I don't want to say respect, because it is period accurate, but they have treated him with the weight that he deserves as a character, as opposed to making him yet another Irish or Seth from the first game, where they are just so one. Yeah, he's not a black guy whose sole character trait is he's black.
Yeah. Which I think is, when we've spoken about Red Dead before, that seems to be one of your major problems, is the characters like Irish. In that they're nothing. They're literally what their name is. They're just Irish, and not even in a good way. Like
even characters like Bonnie, who's like, the problem with Red Dead 1 is that for all of the things it does right, it weaves a cast that is effectively just a pastiche of tropes from Clint Eastwood movies.
Which I think what I said about this a few weeks ago, I think, is kind of almost what we missed about Red Dead 1, in that it was just GTA but the Wild West. But because it was a cowboy game, people kind of treated it with more seriousness. It became more of an actual cowboy game. Like, oh yeah, I'm a cowboy. Rather than, like, when you're playing GTA, obviously you are a criminal, but everyone sort of thinks of those games with the sort of ridiculous, overstated, terrible comedy that's in it. Whereas Red Dead, they kind of ignore that, despite the fact, like you say, it's full of tropes. They emphasize those maybe a bit too much. And also,
this game does not have that.
Yeah, which I think is good. They've steered the right way, right? It's how they've remembered. They've made Red Dead 2 how people remember Red Dead 1, rather than trying to go for what they went with before. And I guess that's easier as well, because they're not cowboys, the people who make this game. The people who make GTA, obviously Rockstar started as a British company, but they've experienced America as it is right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's easier to make tropes of those things, but then when you're trying to make tropes of films about the Wild West that were already filled with inaccurate tropes. It just gets a bit almost Chinese whispery and doesn't work. So it's nice to hear that, they're actually focusing on telling a serious story. But from what I've read, that's like the good part about Red Dead, is that thematically and story wise it is remarkable, but they've just sort of fallen at the same hurdle game wise that they always do.
I don't know. I mean, you might have some opinions on this, Jack, but if you didn't like Red Dead Redemption 1 for the mechanical gameplay reasons that were so, even at the time, obviously deficient in Red Dead Redemption 1,
Yeah.
you will you bounce off this game. So already in like the 5 hours I've played, I've wrestled with the controls a number of times. I've had interactions fail because the button prompts, you can do so much, and so much is context sensitive, that it's very, very easy to have a situation just go really bad. I've spent the last hour or so in game hunting for elk with a bow and arrow to try and get the best quality pelts and elk meat I can, so that I can sell it for the most money, so that I can pay off the very significant bounty on my head that I acquired because I accidentally I was standing there and a dude started on me from behind, and I couldn't find him in time to defuse the situation with like the diffuse interaction that they have now. So he just started punching me. So I started punching him, and then he just kept getting back up. So I ended up accidentally killing him, which led to a big murder gunfight, and then a huge chase on some horses, and it was a lot of fun. But now also it means that in like the sole town that you end up near at like the beginning of the game, that's meant to be where the first few missions take place when it like starts in earnest, I got like a $60 bounty on my head, and that's loads.
Shit,
When
man.
you're earning like $3 for a pelt, like $60 is a lot. Yeah. So it has some mechanical deficiencies for sure, but
It seems like that kind of thing where, so obviously that's going to be really frustrating. You're doing stuff you're not kind of meant to. You're not wanting to. But at the same time, the way you describe it, in my head, it comes through as this almost. I'm not saying it necessarily is intentional, but in a way, it's like these characters are criminals, right? Whereas the people playing them aren't outlaws. So the people playing it, someone starts on them from behind, they try to defuse it and try and be good. Whereas this character, they want this character to, like, yeah, it's a role playing game, and it's almost enforcing that role playing in a way. You try to defuse it, but maybe you get a bit flustered or whatever, or it doesn't all quite work how you intended, and it ends up in a fight. And I don't know much about these characters. I've not played it, and I've not really gotten into it much. But there's, considering the fact they're in a gang in the Wild West, they might not be the best at diffusing these situations anyway, and they might tend to result in fights and gun fights rather than a nice little resolution. And so while the intent might be there, maybe they want you to actually fuck up a little bit.
Yeah,
But
well,
I don't know if that's actually how it feels when you play it.
I think that's like sort of set out just in the story itself from the onset. When you're like in the first bit, when you finally find a shelter for your people, and then like you and Dutch go off and try and see if you can find, like, I guess they call it a homestead somewhere. And
yeah.
then you go off into the storm and you find a little place that sounds a bit lively, and obviously there's you're three cowboys in the middle of a snowstorm. You look a bit dodgy, so walking up to a house all on with three of you is a bit weird. So Dutch tells you and your mate to get behind cover and just lay low for a bit as he goes up and tries to talk to them. And yeah, it turns out that the house is occupied by O'Driscolls, and there's this woman that is who's basically been made into a widow because they've come in and shot the husband. So you want to try and go into it, or like the story sort of makes you feel like you're going to go into it, you're going to find some nice people, and it'll be fine. And then when you find out that there's a dead body in like a little cart outside, it sort of intentionally makes it like, well, shit, like something's going to go down here. So it sort of leads into
Yeah,
that
yeah.
intentional like fuck uppery, I guess.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, and even from the fact that like the game begins with you on the run from a job,
Yeah,
from a robbery that went bad, and someone's been shot, and a
yeah,
bunch of people have been arrested, and your gang is just fucked. You've had to run away from your camp and leave everything that you had behind. Just immediately, the game's just like, shit's going to be going bad.
yeah,
yeah.
And also, like, very first cutscene, before you even get a chance to play the game, like Dutch gives like a little speech about how, you know, the gang's gonna rebuild, everything's gonna be okay, just one last big push.
Mm.
And you see Arthur Morgan, your character, give him like a sideways look. He's already thinking, after the Blackwater job went bad, he's already looking at Dutch thinking, is the answer really like one more job?
Yeah.
Like he's already thinking that, and you know from Red Dead Redemption 1 that Dutch is going to end up sort of drinking his own Kool-Aid, and that's how he's going to go out.
yeah,
So it does a very, very good job, possibly the best job a Rockstar game has done, of actually setting up a story and telling a story with nuanced characters who aren't caricatures, and having and suggesting like a thematic intent. It's fucking and also it's just a remarkable looking video game.
mate. So when you're on your horse and you're like traveling to different points on the map, and you can go into the cinematic camera, and it looks phenomenal.
Yeah, that's one of these
Yeah.
things I've seen. Because, I mean, I think they had a similar thing in Red Dead, right? They had, I don't think it did the cinematic camera, but it did you
Yeah,
could just kind of leave your horse to run along a set path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could just enjoy it. That's one of these things I've seen come out about this one, the cinematic camera thing. And it looks unbelievable. Like,
yeah, it's absolutely
bit-
like going
you-
through the snowy bit when you're trying to hunt for some deer initially,
Yeah.
and just going through that bit, it's insane. It looks incredibly it's incredibly well done.
Yeah, I could easily be convinced that some of those things that are coming out from it, if it weren't for some slight like uncanniness with movement, you could easily be convinced that those are just sort of videos of someone riding around outside.
Yeah, it's really something else the way it looks, and it has I don't want to sound like I'm just reading from a bunch of other reviews, but it really does have an attention to detail that is kind of impressive. Like if you slaughter a deer, or if you kill a deer and then you pick it up and you walk it over to your horse and you put it on your horse, that's fine. If you kill it and then you skin it and then you put it on your horse, pick it up and put it on your horse, you get blood all over your coat.
Yeah.
And then when you walk around in town with blood in your coat, people are like, "Hey, buddy, what's going on here?"
Yeah.
And it's just like loads of little interactions like that. Like I was in a gunfight and my hat got shot off. So then I ran and picked up my hat and put it back on, and then kept on shooting dudes.
That's great. You gotta have your hat.
I can't face those guns without my hat, mate. But I just wish that you didn't have to wrestle with the controls.
Yeah. I mean,
And
I
it's-
remember that being
yeah.
about Red Dead 1. I definitely said this with you guys before, so I'm sounding a bit like a broken record. But I loved Red Dead 1, but I couldn't get back into it ever again because, like you said earlier, the beginning of it is just really slow and boring. So hearing that the beginning of Red Dead 2 is actually compelling and you want to play it is nice enough. But I think for me, I was able to get through the controls quite well. So hearing those things about it being sort of like it's no worse than Red Dead 1, it's still a bit muddled. for me, that's kind of like, well, I know that I can put up with that. Like, I know that I got through that fine before and I really enjoyed it. So the fact that everything else is better is already for me just like, it seems exactly what I want, right? But I can understand for lots of people how those sort of control systems, it's just frustrating at times, isn't it? It's like, well, maybe put a
Yeah,
bit
totally.
more into it. I don't know. It's hard to
And
say.
that's the thing as well. Like I think, with the amount they wanted to do, and it is such a huge amount so far that you can do in this game already.
Yeah.
They knew that like an Xbox or PlayStation controller is not enough buttons. They knew you have to be using multiple buttons for different things. There's going to be context sensitive menus, and like if you hold L2, it basically changes the operation of every single button on the controller, and all this crazy shit like that. And so, with that in mind, and with the fact that sort of they know that horses are like quite a weighty way to move and carriages are a weighty way to move. They know that it's cumbersome and slow, so they've just kind of lent into it a bit.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember the skinning animation in Red Dead Redemption 1? It was like infamously a long and boring thing.
Yeah.
So in this, they've just made it even longer and like way more detailed, and there's a unique one for every animal, and it's like a couple of seconds to like a couple of like 20 seconds longer in some cases. Like if you skin an elk, you are fucking working on that elk for ages.
Fuck.
But it's so detailed, and it's kind of, I almost want to say like it kind of languishes in it.
Yeah.
Like it's like they went, this is a slow paced game, so let's just fucking make it really, really slow.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like they've listened to the criticisms of it and gone, well, fuck you, it's a cowboy simulation game. If you're skinning an animal, you gotta skin a fucking animal. You don't just magically get this skin.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna make it worse for you. Fuck you.
Yeah, man, I mean,
totally.
I've only done the bit where you go out and hunt for those first 2 deers, but certainly like even the skinning of that when you first do it is, I didn't expect it to be like you said, I didn't expect it to be that detailed.
And it's like, depending on what animal you are skinning, you get a completely different, unique animation, different lengths, complete different movements. When you skin a raccoon, let me tell you, it is gruesome.
Yeah.
Because you slice it at like the back of the neck, and then Arthur Morgan just like turns it inside out.
Oh god.
I didn't even know that skin could do that. But he's just like, it's like pulling a rabbit out of a hat, but it's like he pulls a fleshy raccoon out of a raccoon bag.
God,
it's very grim.
Warning on this podcast.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. There have been some points in it where I've definitely fumbled mechanically with it, but I think you're right, Dylan. There, what you just said about them saying it's a cowboy simulator. Like Red Dead Redemption 1 now. So in the last couple of months, I've played all of Red Dead Redemption 1. I've played a significant chunk of GTA 5, and now I've played this.
Yeah. Red
Dead Redemption 1 is now, in hindsight, Grand Theft Horse.
Yeah.
I know that was such a dismissive joke that was being made when it was coming out, but now in hindsight, looking at it and the games around it and the way that it does its thing, it is Grand Theft Horse. This is Cowboy Simulator.
Yeah. Like
this is like, this is fucking, you need to look after your horse. You need to, if your horse gets dirty, you need to brush it. Otherwise, its stamina will reduce faster because it's dirty and uncomfortable. Like, if you lose your hat, you're going to have to go and buy a new hat. And you can't not wear a hat. This is, if you don't shave for a very long time, you grow a great big fucking beard, and people think that you're a dirty, scraggly criminal outlaw. So you best make sure that like every couple of hours, you head back to your campsite and shave. My Arthur Morgan is currently rocking a very powerful Tom Selleck mustache. He looks a bit like Magnum PI. It is choice.
Nice. See, I didn't
And
even
like,
know that they had like that level of depth into it in terms of like again it goes back to what you were saying, Mark, like the attention to detail to have stuff like that worked into it. Like I understood about the whole horse interaction, but I didn't obviously only being a couple of hours in, I didn't realize how deep it went.
it's like when you go up to the shaving station, it's not just like, here are some styles you can have. It tells you at a bar on the bottom how many pips out of 10 your beard length is. And then you can reduce the sideburns, the chin, and the upper lip as individual segments
Oh man,
down from that out of 10.
that's pretty.
So you
cool.
can be like, yeah. So like when I first went there, I had like a 4 out of 10 everywhere. And so I was like, oh, so I was sort of messing with it. And you can make it down to like you can be like, I want to just have big chops, or I want to have like shorter chops and then a long beard and then no mustache. And so you can like, it's just fucking remarkable. Just even shit, just the detail in just little things like that. It's just nuts.
It feels almost like they've used this as an excuse to make like a seriously detailed, not necessarily for everybody game. Like, obviously, this is the kind of game that, being a sequel to a super popular game by a company that has made like basically some of the most popular games ever made, they've kind of gone, well, we don't actually just want to do that again. So let's use this fame and like the guarantee that it's going to sell well to make this stupidly in-depth, like we just said, Cowboy Simulator. Like, there's so much to it. It feels like that they've kind of just gone, yeah, we want to have this in it. We think this would be cool. Let's chuck it in. Like, fuck it. What's going to go wrong? Nobody's going to not buy the game because the mustache stuff isn't up to scratch. So let's add it.
Yeah, like I got into an altercation around a campfire, and I was out at night riding my horse around. I saw a campfire, so I rolled up to it, and like there were some people getting in a fight at this campfire, and so I pulled out my gun, and there's a button. If you pull out your gun, you aim it, and then you press up on the D-pad, you point your gun in the air.
Yeah.
So then I pressed up on the D-pad, pointed in the air, fired off some shots, and everyone, like the people having this big fight, panicked and dispersed.
Nice.
And like it's not even, you don't even really need to do it, but just like I could have had the exact same interaction if I just aimed to the left of them. But the fact that you can roll up on your horse, and I've got a good enough bond with my horse now that I can do side turns with it, so I can come to like an immediate stop by pulling it round to the side. So like I literally rode up to this campfire, people getting in a big fight, pulled it round to the side, and started firing my gun in the air. And it's just like,
so cool.
That's just from a western. That's just from a cowboy movie.
Yeah. Man, this is making me want to get this game.
It's really, it's not a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination. And as much as I think it's a really, really like quite a dismissive comparison, when Tom said, "Oh, so Red Dead Redemption 2 is to Red Dead 1 as Fallout 4 is to Fallout 3,"
Yeah.
he's kind of right.
But
I think it does a lot more. It improves significantly more on Red Dead 1 than Fallout 4 does and Fallout 3, but it still has the same problems.
it feels like that's a really apt comparison gameplay-wise. It feels like they've just like kind of updated the visuals and updated some of these little things that make it like, yeah, it's a new game, but you know, you're not really going to get much out of it other than that. But from the way you guys are describing it, and from how other people have said it, it seems like in every other sense, in like as a game as a whole, and in sort of how we've spoken about games before, in a way of, you know, actually telling a story and meaning something. It's not just like Red Dead Redemption 1 had a pretty good story. Like there was something to it, even though it was still just a bit silly and full of these tropes.
And there are weak moments, you know,
Yeah.
as well. Like, yeah, but yeah.
There was a sort of meaningfulness to it, right? There was these connections you had, and like this that whole thing with whatever it was called, like the Stranger, I think, right? And there was all the speculation: is he God or is he Death? That kind of stuff.
Mm.
And there was these little
Yeah,
bits of
like
it.
the old gunslinger you meet in Mexico.
Yeah, I think so. He was in like a top hat, and you see him like 3 times or something.
Oh wait, sorry. Yeah, no, I'm thinking of someone completely different. Yeah, yeah, the stranger with the top hat. Sorry.
Yeah, and like so there was that sort of feel to it, and there was definitely bits of it. But the way that everybody's described this new one, it feels like there's so much more to it. So it feels unfair to just say it is the Fallout 4, Fallout 3 thing. You know, it does feel
I
like
guess
there is much more to it.
it's like if Fallout 3 is version 1.0, Fallout 4 is like version 1.5. If
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption 1 is version 1.0, this is version 2.0.
Yeah.
It's the same product, but it iterates on it is the same product, but it iterates on everything so much. But it is definitely it's not Red Dead Redemption 1 version 1.0. It definitely still is a Red Dead Redemption game
Yeah.
for all of the negatives, but then it just iterates on so much of it. I would love to hear your opinion on it, Dylan, because you in the last year of podcasts have expressed such a strong duality and opinion between story games and games that prioritize gameplay and requiring gameplay that's fast and fluid, but also enjoying gameplay that has like a depth to it and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And so this feels like a game I could see you going either way on it.
Yeah. I think that's how I feel too. I think there's definitely a risk of I think there's enough gameplay there for me to get my teeth into, but I am also worried about that whole, like you say, the fumbling to it. Especially
Yeah, like-
with recently how I've been playing games where it is moving around fluidly, and like that's kind of all I've played in the past few years. Like I've had my stints with Witcher and stuff, which I guess is the closest relation, right? But
This has especially in kind of the momentum and sluggishness that Geralt and Roach have when you're trying to move them around, and it's like he walks and then you push and he does a little jog and then you tap A and suddenly he sprints and then you leap off a cliff. This has it does have a very, very similar, actually, almost momentum and like commitment to the movement that The Witcher has.
yeah. So I feel like I do love that about The Witcher, but I do get very bogged down playing The Witcher as well. So I don't know. I think I definitely need to play it. I think if I don't, it'll be one of those things that I'm constantly thinking about playing.
Yeah, I could see you in a few hours be like, in a few hours you will either be like, man, fuck this and never touch it again, or in a few hours you will be like miles off the beaten track, fucking robbing stagecoaches and hunting deer and like so completely absorbed in your own cowboy simulation that like you lose 100 hours.
Yeah.
But it's this game is going to be that. It's going to be one or the other for everyone who plays it.
Yeah, for sure.
For everyone who plays it,
Which I
because
mean, I think personally, as that kind of description for me is almost like they've nailed it, right? Because obviously, not every game is going to be for everyone, and sometimes you get games that lots of people do enjoy, but are very sort of middle of the ground. It's like, yeah, well, it's like the whole Rotten Tomatoes thing, isn't it? It's not a particularly good measure, but you can tell if everybody enjoyed it or if it was really split. Doesn't necessarily mean one thing is better than the other. Whereas I think a game where you're either going to fucking love it and dedicate your life to it, or you hate it and will never play it. You just need to know if that's your game, and then it's like the perfect game, right? And that's probably what they've gone for. From the sounds of how it all works, that's the intent they had with it, is a game that isn't for everybody. It's for people who want to play this game. Which I think
it's like if the idea of you have to make sure that you put your bandana on to cover your face before you do a crime sounds appealing to you, then like this is the game for you. I don't know. I understand that. You are still in the opening section of that game, Jack. You are still currently in that Bolly McFarlane's Ranch
Yeah.
section, as it were. However much better it is than Bolly McFarlane's Ranch. Where are you with it at the moment? Because I know where I'm at with it now. I know what this game is to me and what I will end up doing in this game.
Yeah,
But what about you?
I certainly feel like, yeah, like you say, I mean, there's still, I guess, a lot left to be explored, not only in terms of the gameplay, but the mechanics as well. Um, I'm enjoying it at the moment. Obviously, once I do the next couple of missions and get out of the snowy area and actually find civilization, I imagine I'll start running into some of the scenarios that you've been running into, and perhaps start to enjoy it a bit more. But yeah, certainly at the moment from the first couple of hours, it's a lot more. I guess yeah, it's compelling, and yeah, it makes you want to continue playing it in a way, like you said, Dylan. It's a lot more compelling than the start of Red Dead Redemption 1, and it certainly makes you want to play more. And I guess get to know the characters a bit more better. Although we have a general background of how they all eventually turn out to be from the first one, but certainly the gameplay is phenomenal at the moment. I think there's still a lot more left for me to explore to, I guess, give a fully fledged opinion on the game. But it's yeah, it's certainly I'm getting a lot of enjoyment out of it now, and I've only just scratched the surface. So yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying the game at the moment.
I think.
How are you in?
Oh,
Sorry,
go
yeah,
ahead.
you go ahead, Dylan.
I was gonna say, I think a good metric for me and maybe other people who are listening who haven't played it is right now, and like while we've been recording this, how much do you feel like you want to be playing it, and how likely are you to, after like once we're done recording, just immediately start playing it again?
I got to pay off
Probably,
that fucking bounty, man.
yeah, probably very likely at this moment in time. I mean, I've got no plans for the rest of my Saturday, so probably going to sit down, yeah, like you say, straight away after we finish this, and hop on and play at least another couple of hours, see where it goes from there. May even end up playing it for the rest of the day. So
Which I think is, it's like an earworm, isn't it? But the game version, I don't know what that would be. But you get that feeling with some games, don't you? That
yeah.
you play it until you're tired of it and you can't play anymore. You turn it off. You sit down for about 10 minutes before you just like, I could turn that back on. I could be a cowboy again. And
Yeah,
it feels like this.
I feel like last night I was taking my time to talk to people, but I was also just trying to sort of get to grips with some of the systems and exploring around. And so, like right now, like I've got to pay off my bounty, and I want to just sort of go and hang out in the camp because there's definitely some stuff in the camp that I haven't fully explored yet. Some people I haven't properly spoken to. There's some camp upgrades that I can do that I think I've managed to unlock some bits for, and it's just I want to. There are so many systems in it. Like this is. Even shit down to like so. Actually, it reminded me an awful lot, and I think this is not actually saying that I think one has taken from the other. I think what this is actually saying is that as game players become more and more mature, the games themselves can become more and more mature. But it reminded me a lot of Breath of the Wild and the systemic interactions that existed within Breath of the Wild. And how in Breath of the Wild, if you're going to go into a cold area, you better put on a coat.
Yeah.
And just like and shit like that. And this game does the same kind of thing. If you're in a cold area, you better wear a coat. But if you're in a hot area and you're still wearing that coat, you get a bit too hot and your stamina reduces faster. And it's not quite as like physics simulation-y as Breath of the Wild, but there's it has a systemic nature to its sandbox, and like that's totally my jam, right? Like that is totally my thing, and I wanna be just in it, and I want to poke around at the seams. And as much as like I've played Red Dead 1 as John Marston cowboy on the road to redemption and did like all the best shit I could. Always took the good honor choices and got positive fame, all this other stuff. In this one, I kind of want to be like, well, I could just. I'm Arthur Morgan. I'm a badass outlaw cowboy. I'm just going to put on this bandana and go rob this stagecoach, just to see what. Because it's not going to be as easy as me rolling up to a stagecoach on my horse with a bandana on and robbing it.
Yeah.
You know that some shit's going to happen that means I'm going to end up going on some crazy run from the law and end up having to hunt another fucking 50 elk to get my bounty paid off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to go poke around in it, which is cool.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything left to say about that. I mean, we've covered Red Dead pretty well, I think, now.
Yeah. I mean,
if there's anything else you two want to say, I mean, get it off your chest now. But
I guess certainly in a couple of weeks' time, when I've got more to grips with the game and the mechanics, and I'm not just in the starting area, I'll probably have a bit more to say about it. But I feel like,
I'm sure we'll do a re-dive back into it.
Yeah, for sure. At some point we'll have to. But I mean, at the moment, I feel like I've got a lot more to I guess get a grips with. So yeah, I'm thoroughly looking forward to losing all of my spare time to Red Dead Redemption 2 in the next couple of weeks.
Well,
I just really fucking hope they stick the landing with the story. I know every single review says they do, but people also said that about Red Dead Redemption 1 when it came out, and Red Dead Redemption 1 does not necessarily stick the landing with its story. I really, really I want to play another few hours. I want to see if they introduce any new characters, because at the moment all the characters in the gang are well fleshed out and nuanced and have layers to your interactions with them. I really, really hope when they add more characters and diversify that cast a bit more, they keep adding mature, well-rounded characters, because if they do, and the game keeps letting you interact with them the way that it's currently letting me interact with them, this is like it will be a cowboy simulator like nothing before it. It will be the high watermark for this kind of immersive. So this is it. I don't want to call it an immersive sim, because it's not like Deus Ex or Dishonored, but it is a simulator that immerses you in being a cowboy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited to see if it holds up its end of the bargain, because at the moment it's at least convinced me that I want to play another several hours of it.
Which, I mean, is all it can do at the beginning, right? That's what they need. They need to hook you. So
yeah, it's fucking cool. And you know what? It was like after a few hours of playing it, I literally had the thought that it made me. So on this show, we've discussed the idea that a second Red Dead is infinitely more appealing from a storytelling perspective than a sixth GTA.
yeah,
Because GTA has not actually added anything from a storytelling perspective in 10 years, since GTA 4, really. GTA 5 didn't do anything interesting with its story. A few hours into this, I was like, if they do this with GTA 6, it will be one of the most phenomenal games. It will become legendary. If they can bring this level of craft to its characters and interactions that I've only played like 5 hours of it. Yeah. And if they can bring that to a GTA game, it'll blow people's minds. It will be a fucking masterpiece, because just shit, man. It'll be crazy. It will literally be the mobster criminal video game, like based on. So like, their entire thing has always been ripping from crime cinema.
Yeah.
But they do so much satire that it comes across as quite tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
If they can bring this level of storytelling craft and characterization to a game that rips from Crime Cinema, the way that GTA games do, it will just. The only way I can think of describing it is it will literally be Heat, the video game, which is high praise for me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Possibly the best thing you could say about a GTA game.
yeah, which is because it's what they've been trying. It's what they've been trying to be for the last 20 years, really.
Yeah.
And I guess that is my praise. My praise is just listening to these characters talk to each other for the last 5 hours has been wonderful.
Well, I mean, you basically just called it Cowboy Heat, the video game, right?
Kind of, yeah. It is so refreshing to see a Rockstar game where it is not stereotypes and caricatures bouncing off each other.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like, I already have a sense in just 5 hours of exactly who Arthur Morgan is and how he interacts with all these other nuanced characters and what their relationships are and how they mean to each other and like who he's more antagonistic with and who he's not and who's kind of like a brother to him and who's like a father to him. And it's from a writing perspective alone, man, it's good.
Yeah.
That was my final thought on it. Just from a writing perspective, it's fucking good.
Well, I mean, I think that's a pretty good. We've done an hour and a bit now. We've spoken, I think, as much as we can about Red Dead. Unless you've got any other gaming news that is particularly biting that you particularly want to let the world know your opinions on, should we call it then?
Yeah, I'm happy to call it a day on
Cool.
that.
Well,
Yeah, me too.
that has been your weekly dose of shouting over the news. You can find us on SoundCloud and iTunes at, I believe, Shouting Over Static.
Mm-hmm.
Are we back up on YouTube yet?
Almost. I've encoded a bunch of the backlog. I've got a couple left, and then I'm going to put them all up in one go.
We are
Cool.
nearly on YouTube. You can find us there, Low Expectations Media, and I think it's pretty clear on there what the podcasts are. Anything older than
Should
the
be, yeah.
podcasts is great fun too, though. Watch us play some Neo Geo games. Oh, remember when we did that, Mark? Good times.
Magic on the blacktop, mate. 3-on-3. Let's go.
That was good. That was some good stuff. I can't even remember where
Okay.
that sat in our rankings, but it was some tasty games.
Depressingly low, considering how fucking baller Street Hoop is. But maybe it's just because Street Hoop was the first video game to have a sick rap song in it. I don't know if that's true either. It's the
Probably
first
not.
video game I want to know about that's got a sick rap song in it.
It's the only one that matters. That has been us. Bye from me, and then you guys can take you.
After you, mate.
Bye. It's been Jack. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure as always.
Right.
Cheerio.
See you next week.